So branding is about identifying who you are as a company and ensuring that consumers see the same message. There are three steps to developing an effective brand. One, developing a clear identity for the consumer to identify with. Two, communicating that message effectively. Three, continuously improving on that message. One, develop an effective identity. So, really savvy brands have a clear message, vision, and values. And they also develop strategy that is effectively executed. Okay. So, if you think about like a shoelace, tying a shoelace through a shoe, they connect all the dots for their strategy to ensure that what they develop is seen by that consumer. So, think about a brand like Polo or Ralph Lauren. He has a lot of brands. He has Purple Label, he has RLX, and he also has Polo Children's. But each one of those brands, he's having a separate conversation with the consumer. Not only is he having a separate conversation, he also has separate messaging and separate identity around each brand. So each one of those brands has developed an effective identity in order to properly differentiate with the consumer. Two, communicate effectively. Think about communication with your consumer as an ongoing conversation. So you always want to be speaking to the consumer continuously through the process and developing the messaging and evolving the messaging for that fact. So if you think about a brand like Coca-Cola, they started in the 1970s by saying, "I'd like the world to have a Coke." Very fun, upbeat messaging. And then they moved that messaging to have a Coke and a smile. So again, upbeat messaging, but you see they shifted the messaging to ensure that they're still having that ongoing conversation. And finally, they ended with Coke is it, right? So they're still having a fun, upbeat conversation with the consumer, but they're evolving the conversation. So again, it's about communicating consistently and effectively with your consumer by having an ongoing conversation. So number three, Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese word that means good change or continuous improvement. Brands must evolve their messaging and they must continuously improve their messaging. So how do you do that? You do that by consistently listening to your consumer. So if you think about the 1970s, an innovative entrepreneur started a discount brokerage. They began with very clear, focused client messaging. They were very successful. By the 1980s, the company did over $7 billion. That company we now call Schwab. By 2002, they launched an investment research branch. They also launched private client services. Okay. And then by the 2000s, they launched a campaign called Ask Schwab. And so, what I like about this example is it really shows that they were listening to their consumer and willing to tweak their strategy effectively to ensure that their consumer, their goals match what the consumer saw. And also to give their consumers an opportunity to interact and have some buy in for their branding. So, again, there are three steps for developing an effective brand. One, developing very clear identity and also building strategy around that identity. Two, communicating effectively and having an ongoing conversation with the consumer. And three, Kaizen, or continuous improvement, good change, meaning that you listen to your consumer and you integrate that feedback into your strategy. So hopefully these tips help you build an effective brand.